had all masters here, yes or yes? And this is one of the masters, again, that so many other masters have learned from. And we all have many, many teachers, true or true? And this gentleman has actually been one of my teachers. And in my early days of understanding mind and laws of universe and how the whole thing really works, he was a person that I could really, really understand. And he's very down to earth and very, very clear and very powerful. Very what? Powerful. So I owe a lot of gratitude to him for my own success and the understanding and the introduction to universal principles and laws and how they work. He's actually regarded as one of the living masters of this arena in the area of human potential for over 40 years. How long, please? 40. That's before I was born, almost. It's not that funny. He is the best-selling author of the book, You Were Born Rich. And he has an amazing workshop called The Science of Getting Rich, which I know thousands of people have taken and had amazing results with. And he's transformed millions and millions and what? Millions of lives throughout the entire world. He is actually a direct link, or you want to call lineage, or whatever you want to call it, to the modern science of success and the laws of attraction that we talked about so frequently, stretching all the way back to Andrew Carnegie. And then Carnegie's Secrets inspired a book that a lot of you heard of called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, who personally basically mentored a gentleman by the name of Earl Nightingale, who personally mentored our next presenter. Cool or cool? Like a direct lineage is what I love here. Pass the baton right to him. He is an amazing trainer, amazing speaker. What I love about him most, he's got a huge heart. He's got a big what? He's got a huge heart. Say, huge heart. Let me hear you. Huge heart. And you know what? He's one of these people who's always wanting to give. Give. Support. You know, whenever I talk to him, Harv, how can I help you? How can I? And he wants to help everybody. And all the other trainers in the world, you know, we're not, you know, all the people on this stage, we kind of all work together. We're not very competitive. But of all of us, the least competitive and the most supportive and the most, how can I help you? How can I bring you two together? Oh, I know this person for you in England. I know this person for you in Australia. I can get you this over here. Always. How can I help you? How can I give you? With nothing in return. No, just complete unconditional support. That's a big heart. That's an enlightened person. That's an enlightened trainer. Yes or yes? How about a peak potential's welcome for Mr. Bob Proctor?
Wow. What an event. Thank you. Thank you.
Have fun, Bob.
How many of you have watched The Secret? The Secret. Almost everybody. If you take a look here, 100 years ago, Orville Wright said, "Isn't it astonishing that these secrets have been preserved for so many years just so we could discover them?" You know, they've been around for a long time. In 1959, Earl Nightingale brought out The Strangest Secret. And I started listening to it in 1961. That was a long time ago. But you know, The Strangest Secret it made just about as big an impact as The Secret has. And when you stop and think of this, I've been around this business for a long, long time. But you know, I have never seen anything that will equal what's going on here. In 39 years, I have never seen anything like this. I would like everybody to get up and give Harv, let me have your attention. Grab Harv there. He's not listening. Come on up here for a second. I want you to get on your feet and really recognize this guy. This is phenomenal. It is. It is absolutely phenomenal. Give him a real hand. Thanks, Harv. You know, in 39 years in the same business, you'll see a lot of things happen. I watched sales masters many years ago. They would bring in speakers and they would have big events. I don't know, do you remember sales masters? And then W. Clement Stone took it over and they put on big events. The Nightingale Conant Corporation put on the Human Resource Congress. But I was sitting up in my room looking out in the window watching everybody come in, and I was talking to my wife and I said, I have no idea where they're coming from, but the entire mountain is being populated. This is absolutely incredible. And T.Harv, I got to congratulate you. That was really something. You know, and Gail, yes. You know, there's an old saying I picked up a long time ago that the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. And when you think about it, what we're really talking about is lifestyle. And we've got one life. And one of the things that has been virtually ignored in education is money. We can go right through our educational system and come out and learn absolutely nothing about earning money. As a result, we've got 1% of the population that's earning 96% of all the money. And if you start talking about money in most circles, in most societies, people start to shoot you down. It's almost as if you're saying something bad. I have come to the conclusion that profit is a very, very honorable word, and we should never, ever shy away from it. We can do more good with money than we'll ever do without it. But it does have to be earned. We don't get it just by chance. You know, we say, the man that introduced me to all this said, money cannot talk, but it'll listen. And if you call it, it'll come. Well, I started to study this a long time ago. And what I'd like to do is ask you a couple of questions to start off here. How many of you came here with the hope of making some real serious changes in your life? Let me see a show of hands. See, virtually everyone. How many of you came here with the hope that you would find more time to do the things that you really want to do? You know, I was talking to Robert when he came off the stage, and he was mentioning that he was in a meeting that I put on. He was a student, and he has grown into the lead trainer with Harv's organization. And he said, Harv taught him how to earn money, and he became financially independent, and now he does what he loves doing all day long. I think that's something that everyone should do, and everyone can do. It's just that most people have a problem with it. How many of you would really like to make a serious change in your income? Quite a few of you. Well, you see, we have these ideas. We'd like to do these things. Some of us would like to change both, more time and money. How many fall into that category? Well, you know, The Secret come out, and I've never seen anything cover the globe in this business like The Secret did. It just took off right from the word go like a rocket. Now, do you know, it's a strange thing, but it was just 2 years ago that I got a call from Glenda Byrne, Rhonda Byrne's sister. And I got this call, and it was very garbled on my cell phone that I couldn't really understand the name, and I was having difficulty with the number. It sounded like an Australian cell number. And so I just kept hitting pound and putting the call off. I didn't delete it, but I didn't get it. Around 3 or 4 weeks later, Gina Hayden, who's been working with me now for over 20 years, I was cleaning up my phone, and I said, Gina, try this number. I think the person's name is Glenda, and I think this is the phone number. It sounds like an Australian cell phone number. And there's something about a film. I don't really know what it is. Now, I had it on my phone for a good 3 weeks. Gina phoned me back, and she said, no, you had the right name and the right number, and it's a film crew that's in from Australia, and they're shooting a film. And the person that's in charge of it really wanted you in it. Apparently, your book was the only book that she read flying from Australia to America. And they've got this crew in, but they're going back next week. And she said, we're going to be shooting in Aspen all weekend. And Gina said, isn't that strange? Bob's doing a seminar in Aspen this weekend. And I hadn't been here for a couple of years. So here I was in the hotel right beside them. I flew in, walked down, sat down for a couple of hours, walked out, and then everything started happening. And you know, it was months later, it was in February, I guess, when I got a FedEx with a DVD in it. Now, I get a lot of DVDs, and I don't see them all. So this one I had sitting on the table, and finally I said to my wife, I said, why don't we watch this thing? And I put it on, and I just knew that it was going to catch on. But I never dreamt it would catch on the way it has. Millions of people all over the globe. I was going through Hong Kong a few months back, and that's all you could see in the airport. It was all over the place. It doesn't really matter where you go. We had people in for a seminar from Israel a couple of weeks ago, and it's catching on there. It's all through the Nordic countries. But you know, in all the studying of it, and the number of people that are getting it, I have found that in all the self-help books, most people are still having a problem. Now think about this for a moment. For many people, something is missing. It's not working. You know, I go back to the Strangest Secret record by Earl Nightingale, and then the Think and Grow Rich book. And I think of all the books that have come out since then, because back around 1960, Maxwell Maltz had just released his book, Psycho-Cybernetics, and self-help books were hard to find. There just wasn't a lot of them around. Today, they top the bestsellers list, so they're everywhere. We have seminars going on all over the globe. We have all kinds of DVDs and CDs going on. This is all being recorded, so you're going to have material from this that'll scatter all over the globe. But yet, there's a lot of people that are having a problem. It's just not clicking. They're not making it work the way they want. How many of you are having a difficulty getting this to really click for them? Wait a minute, let me try this a different way. How many of you can hold your arm above your shoulder? Let me see if you can get your arm up. All right. How many of you are having difficulty really getting it to click? And quite a few hands went up. Well, you know, that's what I found. Now, I go back to the Strangest Secret record, and there's Earl Nightingale receiving a gold record for it from Columbia Records. Now, that was the first record outside of the entertainment industry that had sold over 1 million copies. So do you see, even way back then, this was catching on and people were studying it. Now, I wanted more time and more money. I was sitting in a fire hall in Toronto. I had no formal education. I had no time and no money. It seemed like I was spending all my time just trying to make enough to pay bills, and I could never catch up. And so this is something that I wanted, and I just didn't seem to be able to make it happen. Then I got into Think and Grow Rich, along with the science, or Earl Nightingale's record, The Strangest Secret, and my whole life began to change. My income went from $4,000 to $175,000, then it went over $1 million. But you know, I had a problem because I had the law of attraction working. I had never heard of the law of attraction, really. It was in the books, but I hadn't really zeroed in on it as a cause. So I had it working, but I didn't know what was working. I didn't know what was happening. And I have found that most people that are highly successful in anything cannot articulate on why they are. I was doing a seminar in New York City a number of years ago, and at the end of the seminar, this great big guy come up to me, and he said, you know, Bob, I really want to thank you for what I got out of this weekend. He said, you know, this is the first time that I have understood what I did. And I looked at him, I said, well, what'd you do? He said, I won the gold medal in the decathlon in the Olympics in Melbourne, Australia in 1956. Because I won the silver medal in Helsinki in 1952. But I never understood till this weekend exactly how I accomplished that. You see, it's a mental game we're playing. And most people really don't understand it. They have a problem with it. Now, there's the two men that were mentors of mine, Earl Nightingale and Lloyd Conant. And these two guys literally changed the course of my life. Now, I was fortunate enough to have met a man prior to that, Ray Stanford. And Ray got me into Think and Grow Rich, and that led me into The Strangest Secret. But you know, when he sat down with me and he started to explain that I could have anything I wanted, I could do anything I wanted, I didn't believe it. Yet you see, the key to this is you've got to believe. Now, I have found out that our belief system is based upon our evaluation of something. And frequently, when we reevaluate a situation, our belief about that situation will change. Now, I really didn't believe I could change, but I believed he believed I could. I mean, he was adamant. And he said, if you just do what I've suggested, you can have anything you want. Now, I don't know why. I had people before that were trying to help me from the time I was a little kid, and none of them ever reached me. But for some strange reason, I listened to him. And as I listened to him, I thought, I'm going to try what he says. And my whole world changed. Now, when it changed, I didn't know why it had. I thought it was the book and the record that I was listening to. And so I'd buy those books and the records and I'd give them to everybody I knew. But nothing was happening with them. I have gone into some of the largest companies in the world, yet their top performers don't know why they're top performers. And they have industrial psychologists shadowing these people, trying to figure out what makes them so good at what they're doing. Some of them aren't very bright. Some of them are intellectual giants. But they all have one thing in common. They're performers. They produce. And so I thought somebody has to know why I changed. And they've either written it about it or they're talking about it. So I made up my mind I'd read every book that was ever written if I had to. And I began to study. And then I started to think of Earl Nightingale. And I went to visit him because I was listening to this record. It was just a voice on a record player. And I went to visit him. And I had been studying his stuff for quite some time. But when I was leaving his office, I remember this as if it was yesterday. I said to him, Earl, if you could give a person just one suggestion, what would it be? Well, he said that would be very easy. I would just tell him to find out what he loves doing and then dedicate his life to it. Now, he said, the problem with most people is they don't know what they love doing. And you know, I had a feeling of excitement come over me right then because I knew what I loved doing. You see, I was working with people and I was working with them with these ideas. But I never really thought of that at the time. I wanted to do what he was doing, and I knew it. And I left his office that day, and I made up my mind I was coming back there, but I was going to come back and work with him. No, I think I got the idea from Think and Grow Rich, where a chap named Barnes wanted to be associated with Edison. Now, I was prepared to pay them to let me work there. I took an enormous cut in income to go to work there. I took a job at $18,000 a year, and 5 years later, I was earning $33,000. But I didn't go there to earn money. I went there because I wanted to watch him. I wanted to study him. And I got a double benefit because I got Lloyd Conant in the bargain. And Lloyd was a business genius. And so those two men that you see on the screen are literally the guys that had a major impact on my life. And I went to work with them. Now there's me with them in 1968. Now, if you can see this picture clear, Earl has a pretty good sense of humor. And he's looking at Lloyd, and he's probably saying, "You think this kid's ever going to put on any weight?" But you know, this was a most phenomenal experience because this was the company that started this industry as we know it today. And I was working there with them every day. And I set a goal of being vice president of sales just so I would have an office right beside Earl's. And so I got to know the people that visited him, and I got to study the books he studied and subscribe to the magazines that he subscribed to. Yet it was a phenomenal experience. Now, I'm from Canada, and I was living in a hotel. Wow. But I was living in the Lincolnwood Hyatt House, which I believe is gone now. And every once in a while, Lloyd would take pity on me, and he'd invite me to his home for dinner. And so one night I was over there having dinner, and we had dinner in the kitchen. He had this enormous kitchen. And he had a sound system in his house where when he put a record on, because it was all records in those days, the record played throughout the house. If you come into my house, I've got a sound system that goes throughout the house. So it follows you wherever you go, and I know where I got the idea to do that. But I was sitting in the kitchen having dinner, and after dinner, I asked Lloyd, I said, "Lloyd, how did you start this company?" Because you see, he didn't start a company, he started an industry. Yet whenever Lloyd would explain something like that, he'd sit and he'd put his hand up and he'd go somewhere. I didn't know where he was going, but I always wanted to go with him. And he explained that someone gave him a little book, a little green book. Yet he said, "I studied it all weekend. And then I made up my mind on Monday I would start a world-class organization." Well, I wasn't interested in how he started the company anymore. I wanted to know what was the name of the book. Did he have another book? And so he gave me a copy, and it was the Science of Getting Rich book. Yet it's a phenomenal little book. And I began to study that in 1968, and I have never stopped. Now, oddly enough, that is the book that inspired Rhonda Byrne to make The Secret. So you see, there's links here as you go through. If you start to study a little history, you're going to find that there's golden threads run through things. Yet, if we're wise, we will follow wise people who have gone before us. And you know, when we do that, our whole world begins to change. Now, I started to study that book, and I made up my mind that if Lloyd found it interesting enough to guide his life, I was going to use it in mine. And so I began to study it. Now, I started then Life Success group of companies. I got to a point where I didn't want to just sell tapes or records anymore. I wanted to teach this information because I knew there was an element missing. I would see people buy this stuff and they'd have it sitting on shelves. Sometimes they didn't even open it. But they had all this material. They had these great libraries of books. Yet they were struggling. They weren't making it financially. They weren't really excited about how they were spending their days. And so I said to Lloyd, "Why don't we sell a seminar and give them the recordings?" And he looked at me like I'd fallen out of a tree. And he said, "No, I don't think so, Bob." And so I said, "Okay." I had been there 5 years. I knew it was time for me to leave. And so I left, and I decided that I was going to go out and teach this because I believe you can earn all the money you want. There is absolutely no limit to what you're capable of doing. Now, we have a huge challenge in life, and it costs us both time and money. Yet it's something that very, very few people really study. It's called paradigms. Oh, I know most people have heard the word. Some of you have even studied it. But I can assure you, if you held up your hand, that you're having difficulty getting to click, there's your problem. That is definitely your problem. And it was through studying this Science of Getting Rich and working with Lloyd that I started to understand that. And I made up my mind I was going to teach it. You see, paradigms shape our logic. Yet one time, Our paradigm is our habitual way of thinking. At one time, everybody believed the world was flat. Well, almost everybody. Yet it was logical to think that way. Yet one time, it was logical to think that planes couldn't fly. Yet everybody bought into that idea. If they dropped something, it would go down. Just see, our logic is controlled by our paradigm. If a person's paradigm produces their results, yet if they're earning $50,000 a year, it's illogical to think that they could earn $50,000